Hello, this is rrats at chess.com. I'm here to analyze a game submitted by ApexAjet. This is starting a new series at chess.com, and you'll have to look at the thread that I posted in. I will link it in the description. Okay. I've been posting a lot of videos on the Nimzovich defense, and my understanding, a lot of people are attempting these in their games, and that's good. And they're just hitting me with all kinds of questions. I wish I had time for all of them. Let me get a few ones out of the way in this. These videos are going to last 15 minutes. Let's just run through this real quick. Okay, now this is an interesting way to decline the Nimzovich defense, and it offers Black just a very easy game, a comfortable game to quality. And as I pointed out in my promotion video or introduction video, should White play knight c3, Black comes out better with knight takes e4, the center fork trick. And even if White sacrifices on f7, Black comes out of it okay with the bishop pair. He's just going to play king takes f7 and e5 and tuck his king away probably on g6, castle by hand, or king on g7, and everything's fine and dandy. But anyway, White plays this, and after the game, Apex was asking me what's a good move here, and he played e6, and one good move is simply to play e5 here. What you're getting into is Bishop's Opening or the Piano, Italian game, and these are quiet lines that are not all that dangerous for Black and sometimes can be very poisonous for White. And White has some candidate moves like f4 or knight f3. But Black has comfortably equalized in one of the more passive lines. So this is a perfectly acceptable move, as is what Apex played here. He chose to play e6. Now, are there any other possible moves here? d5 immediately is certainly playable. And if pawn takes, you just take with the knight, and the knight's supported. And if White can't play e5 because there's nothing holding that pawn. So Black has a number of good choices here, moving his center pawns, and certainly what he did was fine. And anyway, White goes with bishop g5, and usually I'm against moves like this, early weakening the pawn structure. I think it's better just to develop a piece. Let's just put the bishop on e7, break the pin, and let White demonstrate what he's going to do. Okay, so White comes back, and now he does it a move late, okay? And now White in turn offers this move, and these moves just baffle me, yet I see them played over and over and over again in games played. What are you trying to do? Black doesn't want to pin something on b4. He's already moved his bishop to e7. What's the knight going to do on b4? Black doesn't want to put a piece on b4. White's just giving Black, in effect, a free move. You guys don't need to make moves like this. It's going to get you in trouble. Okay, and this is perfectly logical. Answer a wing attack with play in the center. So this gains a tempo on the bishop, helps Black continue his development, and Black's already getting the better game here. And now now we see the purpose of a3 was to tuck the bishop away to a2. Well, okay, it just cost a tempo to do that, but this would be good if that whole diagonal was open from a2 all the way to g8. With that pawn on d5, that diagonal is not open, so all White's in effect done is put his bishop out of play. He would have been better to have played c3 if this was his idea to preserve his bishop. Therefore, the bishop could go to b3 and on to c2. So, see what I'm saying? Then the bishop might have some future on the b1 to h7 diagonal. Okay, so Black just continues his development, and White chooses a timid square for his knight. You know, we're accustomed to seeing these knights go to f3. Why he did it that way, I don't know. Black just continues, and look, Black's ready to castle. Either way, he hasn't made up his mind which side he wants to castle yet. He has a wonderful choice here. White, meanwhile, has to develop his queen, his knight, and castle. So Black's 3 tempos ahead here, or 2.5 tempos. So Black has everything to be happy about here. And then White castles queenside. Now this is an interesting position. Black could opt to castle long here. and then start assaulting on the king side. He certainly has development and will make white prove what he's doing. It's just an alternative for black to analyze on his own. Okay, but he castles kingside, which is fine. It's still perfectly logical. Black maintains his development lead, and once again, white takes a timid approach with his knight. He puts it on the less aggressive square, d2. Maybe he's afraid if knight c3 that it's going to get tempoed with d4. I don't know. And black just continues to send his pieces over towards the king side. This is good. Okay. You've got a development advantage. Use it. Now the rook is maybe masking some tactical threats against the knight on e5 we have to worry about, but black handles that with tempo, goes attacks the bishop, and now the bishop backs up one square, and now black is just saying, gee, you've given me all this space, I'm going to take advantage of it. He just seizes a good portion of the center here and part of the wing. And what's white going to do here? Some people call this style of play like the hippopotamus, but usually the two bishops are fianchettoed, and so they're on opposite sides of the board where they would be if they're fianchettoed. And the hippo you just sit there and wait for the other side to try to break something open, and hopefully you stay solid enough that you won't lose. It's an interesting game. It's for patient players. The hippopotamus style. Usually white will have pawns on b3, d3, e3, and g3, and his other four pawns will remain on the original squares, and both bishops will be fianchettoed. But anyway, black's just seizing space, and now here white plays knight f3. Now, in effect, he's lost another tempo because he could have had that other knight there on f3 already. See, the knight on e2 is the king's knight. And if white decides to play knight from e2 to c3, then the king's knight's on the queen's side, and the queen's knight is on the king's side. And I've seen that happen recently in a video I did, so it's not uncommon. But it comes at a price of development. So black just develops his other rook. Black's looking fine, gets some space, and I just don't understand white. He really has no plan. He's just saying solid here and saying, come and get me, black. And black just seizes more space. Gosh, we have everything in the world to be happy about this game if we're black. And here's another peculiar move, and this is actually going to get white in trouble, but black misses something, a little trick down the line, and you'll see. Okay, so d4. Now, I'm not saying that's the best move or the worst move, but it gives white a chance to trade off that bishop that we had buried. Okay, so just as an alternative plan, there's no rush to shove any of those pawns. White's just shuffling his pieces. Maybe he'll give us a few more free moves. Let's improve the position of our pieces. Let's put this rook on e1, and then bring this rook to c6, and then shove this pawn to a5, and maybe white will be shuffling his king back and forth while we just improve our position. And then at the right time, then we'll find a thrust that seizes some space. And I might be more inclined to want to try for c4, although it does give up the d4 square to a white knight. But when your opponent's playing like this, don't help him out. Don't offer exchanges. Improve your position first. Okay, so but white doesn't exchange. He again begins to reshuffle his guys. Now his knight's going back where it started. Now, is that the king's knight or the queen's knight? I think it's the king's knight, but I've almost lost track. Might be the queen's knight. Anyway, what's white got here? Nothing. Black's got everything. Okay, and white didn't exchange on e6, so the black would have had to take back with the f pawn, I guess. Or wait, no, just avoid any danger on the e file. But black just shuts the diagonal off again. And now look at those advanced pawns. They're just taking all kinds of squares that white would like to use away from him. And white just has no good move here. And it's entirely a black game. So white tries to get a little breathing room. And look, here we are, move 19, and white still hasn't developed his queen and his queen's rook. Mercy. Okay, rook d8. Okay, knight f3. And black's in no hurry to exchange here. Okay, so let's just improve the position of the pieces a little bit, and white trades. But still, what's white got here? He's got an inactive bishop on a2. His knight and other bishop are okay, but but they're not as good as their counterparts on the queen side or on the king side. You know, I'd have to say the knight on f3 and g6 are probably equal, and the bishop on g3 and f6 are about equal, but the bishop on d5 is much better than the bishop on a2, and the white rook on e1 is about equal to the white rook on c8, but the black rook and queen are better than the queen. So black's got three better pieces than white's counterpart, and black's doing great. He's in the driver's seat. Okay, finally white develops his queen, and black plays just a little safety move. I don't think he really had to. Not sure what his intent here. We'll let him tell us. Okay, so now bishop e5. White's just trying to get some exchanges to get some development. Now, rule number 1, don't trade and improve the position of your pieces, okay? If black undergoes a trade here, then it just helps white get out of his box here that he's all messed up in. So like if black trades a couple times on e5, white's got this rook developed up to e5, and he's ready to swing the other rook over to a1. So black finds a good move. Let's just cripple your pawns. And it's at this point that black just misses an outright forced win. I like to do a little video, black to play and do a little quiz here, and I'm sorry I said it's a forced win, but black to play and do the best he can. Pause the video. Okay, restarted. Well, what black played is reasonable, and he's still winning. He realizes he can take the bishop on f6, and white will do the same on f3, so black plays a desperado move to win a pawn, but he had much better thanks to a pin, and the winning move is queen h3, and this just basically screams to be played, and there's just so many good continuations here. What's white going to do? Okay, let's just look at the obvious move. Let's take the bishop, okay, then queen takes. Now you have to play here, and after knight f4, white's going to get some wood for his queen, but not enough. He can play queen takes, and then queen takes, and then pick up the rook on d8 for the bishop, but his king is exposed, and black's just winning that. And I'm sure black even has better moves than that. He can just take the bishop here and keep the threat of knight f4 alive, and white really has no useful move. The rook will be coming over to g8 momentarily. Any attempt to exchange queens by white will be laughed at, and the queen will just go find another square to keep the threats alive. So it would have been a nice finish, queen h3, but unfortunately he missed it. Let me go back to what was played. Okay, so got to find it here. One little thing about the PGN on chess.com I'm not quite used to. There it is. Bishop takes g2 check. Okay, now king takes. Okay, and like I say, the way black did this is fine. You know, he doesn't even have to take double pawns. And then white finally tries to force some exchanges, and here comes the knight. And here, I think black just kind of panicked a little bit and didn't realize his wonderful advantage. Okay, it's off. Black's up a pawn. He's going to win. But often what we want to do is we see a chance to trade queens, and we do it because, if we trade queens, we win the ending. Well, if you're the attacker, keep the queens on. You might not even see an ending. You might win this sooner. There's a lot of moves just dying to be played here. Rook c5 being the main one. It's got an immediate threat of pinning the queen, and white's going to have to find a move and deal with that. Other good candidate moves, d3. We've got a center pawn majority. Let's get a pass pawn down to the 7th rank, and let white worry about that as well as everything else in his position. So unfortunately, the way this goes, it just allows a white to achieve equality very quickly, and there's the blunder that gives white an even game. And now white's bishop gets out of the bind, and another pawn is going to fall here. And I'm going to just kind of run through the moves here. White's slightly better, or the game's even. And unfortunately, what's going to happen is white Black's going to overextend himself in a drawn position. Black's got the better of it. His knight is better than the bishop because all his pawns are on the opposite color of the bishop, but he just doesn't have enough to make progress. He's got an outside pass pawn too, and this is beautiful setup here. Notice the knight and the bishop, or the knight and the pawn, can never be attacked by the white bishop, and the king can't approach, at least from the frontal assault. So Black's king is free to roam, but unfortunately doesn't have a place to go to because White's pawns are covered. Black will eventually have to give a draw, and there may have even been a threefold repetition in here. I didn't bother, but it's just time to call it a draw. But unfortunately, well, he wins the pawn, but it's still a draw. Unfortunately, White makes a threat here, and Black gets cute and doesn't realize his knight's attacked. And now, unfortunately, he has a lost game, and there's just no hope. But it was very well played by Black, who was rated about 300 or 400 points lower than his opponent. And I hope you enjoyed the game. I thank you for the time took to look at it, and I'll be making more videos in this series real soon. Take care.